Hi guys, it's Kelly and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring some kits from April for Spellbinders. I'm a little bit behind in sharing. I did this video quite some time ago, but today we are going to be using the clear stamp and die kit, the embossing kit, and the small die of the month. And we're going to make two cards. We're talking about, we're also going to use, these are a little bit older, and they are BB's butterflies, I think is what they're called. And they're super cute and I like them. And I think that even when we get new stuff, we should incorporate the old, because why else are we purchasing all this stuff, honestly, if we're not going to get multiple uses out of it. So here, this is the clear stamp and die. It's a beautiful floral. It's kind of like a little field of florals, if you will. And it's really pretty. It's large size, and it has, obviously, it's a clear stamp and die kit, so it has a coordinating die as well. Fun thing about this, which I did end up using, I didn't think I would, but it actually comes with two smaller dies so that you can cut out the little floral in the top right and the bottom left, and you can use those as separate pieces. So we're going to launch right into the coloring. I do want to say, Spellbinders is having a massive sale. This is their second largest sale of the year. The only one that is any bigger than this is their Black Friday sale. So this is their warehouse sale, and they have things that are $1, super good deals. This is the time of year when I go in and I buy like my extra plates for my platinum, for my embossing and die cutting. I buy my extra plates because they're typically on sale, but they have $1 deal, $2 deal, $3, $5, $10. They have great deals. If you have been on the fence about a glimmer machine, that is also on sale, and so is the platinum, the die cutting embossing machine, if you are in the market for a new one of those. But anyway, just a huge sale. I think it's going on until the 28th. So I would just like to mention that. And the reason that it made me think of that is because I love when companies work together. I love when they come together and they make friends. And Spellbinders is carrying Olo markers, and they are selling them on their website. Now they're selling them more in kits than they don't sell the single markers outside of the blender, but they're selling them in kits. And I totally love that, that they are like supporting other companies. I'm a huge fan of that. Like there is enough for everybody in this world that we can work together and support each other, and everybody can still find their place. So that was just something to mention. I am using my Olo markers today. Somebody had asked me in a prior video how I found using the half markers. And honestly, it doesn't really bother me. Like it doesn't matter to me that there isn't another half of my marker. Now there could be, for me, I have enough to make them a pair, but we found, you and I together, when we were doing the videos, that it was a little bit confusing when the color I was coloring with did not match the color of the cap that you could see. It was bothersome for some people, and so I just fixed that by unscrewing the markers. And then when I'm done coloring, I put them back together to put them away. And it does not bother me at all to color with a half marker. Plus it was a way cheaper option for me to get more colors, and that really is what I am all about, the variety. I like choices. So anyway, we got the greens out of the way. I really wanted a yellow green, and so that is why I included the yellow in that combination, just so I could like glaze over it with the yellow and change the hue of the green I chose. Now I'm going in and I'm starting again with my darkest markers. This is definitely something I need to do when I'm coloring with Olos. Because of that free-flowing ink, the markers are just a bit wetter. And so in order to make sure that I don't have any bleeding, because I'm still using my Nina 80-pound silver white cardstock, I was not willing to change my paper in order to be able to use a different marker. And so that means I had to adjust my style of coloring in order to be able to use them. And I do like them. It's different. It's just different, and that's totally okay. But anywho, so that is why I start with my darkest when I'm using these, so I don't have any of that bleeding out. I'm working from my darkest, which is a mid brown, like a mid golden brown, out to my lightest color, which is a probably like a mid-tone yellow. And I just really, just being honest, I just really like pink, yellow, and green together. So that is how I chose the colors that I am working with. Now, blue is my boyfriend. And so that's how we got into the little bit of blue-green that you see into this card, because if I need to add in another color pretty much into any combination, blue is the first look. Blue is the first one I look to. So yeah, we're just going to go through the coloring, and then we'll talk about how I create texture a little bit further along in the video. We do have a little bit of story time today, which I will warn you, I apologize, because when I previously told a story about my daughter being sick, somebody had posted a comment like, hey, could you like give a warning, like a trigger warning for those of us who can't handle it? And so my daughter was sick. So story time today will be about my daughter being sick. If you are a person who is sensitive to that, please feel free to mute the video. So now, while I color, so Caitlin's been sick. She's had a little bit of a cough, a little bit of a runny nose, and she's a daycare kid. I say that all the time. So she's sick all the time. Little petri dish. And this is pretty much just our standard. I mean, honestly, at this point, she's just pretty much always sick. And so what day was it? Monday? Yeah, Monday. She had been sick. She, had her cough and her runny nose. On Monday, Eric worked late. My mom came over to help me. Like, my husband makes these arrangements, and I tell them all the time, like, I'm fine, like, I'm good. And he feels badly that he's not home. So he tries to either have my mom or his mom come over, so that way I'm not just, like, solo with two kids. So anywho, she came over, I made dinner, and my daughter is an eater. Like, there's no question about that. She likes to eat things. And all kinds of things. Like, except for vegetables. If you give her a vegetable, she'll try it, and then she'll literally take her hand and pull it back out of her mouth. It doesn't stop me from trying to give them to her, but she does not. She picks them out every time. So anyway, this was a new meal for us, and she just wasn't really interested in it. She always loves bread, and she ate her whole biscuit. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe she's just not feeling whatever it is that I made. And so my go-to, which I told my husband, I was like, don't let me do this. Don't let me do this in the future. My go-to is to give her something I know that she likes then. So in order to make sure she has food on her tummy, I typically give her yogurt and then a fruit that she likes, and strawberries. Again, strawberries made another appearance. So she loves bath time. She loves food. She loves bath time. These should have been huge red flags that she really didn't feel good. And they were. It's not like I thought she felt great. So when it came to bath time, she was just She didn't want to play. She was just unhappy baby. And I'm like, okay, she's tired. She had been up the night before. Like, she had been up with me the night before. She had woken up in the middle of the night and didn't go back to bed until like 1. So I was like, okay, she's overtired. She doesn't feel good. And so my mom was the one who had given her bath, and she brought her downstairs, and normally this ended up working out in my benefit, but normally like we drain the tub, pick up her toys or whatever, but because she didn't feel good and my mom was like trying to rush to get her downstairs so I could get her ready for bed, she did not drain the tub. So just so you're clear on our timeline here, okay? It is bath to bed. That's how that works. There's maybe like a 10-minute window in which like I lotion her up, get her in her jams, read her story, and then she goes into her crib. Here, I just wanted to point out, this is just like a pale blue-green color. And so I am outlining all of my images with this before I die cut them. And this is just going to help it blend into my background a bit more. You could totally skip this, but I like when my images don't have that white. So anyway, I get her ready. I take her upstairs. She clearly does not feel good. I read her normally I read her 2 books. I read her one very short book. And the whole time, from the time after she like got into the tub, she is like moan, whine, crying. Like she's not full blown crying. She's just, you know how little kids get, like she's just like this moan whining. And I'm like, oh, this poor baby. Like I feel so terrible for her. So I put her in her crib. I give her just a couple of minutes. She's not settling down. She's still feeling this way. And so I had sent my husband a message and I was like, can you hear her? Because like we have the cameras that he can access on his phone. And I was like, you know what? This is silly. I don't, like, she clearly doesn't feel good. Maybe she just needs some extra snuggles tonight. I certainly have stayed up with my son, holding him while he slept in the rocker. And if that's what we need to do, then that is what I'm going to do. So I pick her up from her crib. I grab her blanket. And now normally I put her blanket in between me and her so she can snuggle with it, like lay her head on it when her head's on my shoulder. So I pick up her blanket, I put it on my shoulder, and then I pick her up. And as soon as I turn around, from the crib, she starts vomiting all over her, the blanket, and me again. Like, do you remember the last time we had one of these stories? But now Eric is not home. My mom is gone. Okay. I'm solo in it. So I basically just use her blanket as like a catch-all. I wait until she is done. I take her into the bathroom. I set her down. I put her stuff and my stuff into the sink. I see that her bath water from not but 10 minutes ago is still sitting there. It has not been let out. And in fact, when I came downstairs after all the chaos had died down, my mom actually left me a note and she was like, sorry, I forgot to clean up the bathroom. But I was like, it was totally fine. I checked the water. It was still warm. I just took her right back into the tub, washed off, where she had gotten sick. And then wrapped her in a towel. That was actually my son's towel because they share a bathroom. Wrapped her in a towel, carried her back downstairs, got her redressed in a new pair of pajamas. And she's still crying. Like she's still whine crying. And I'm like, okay, in all of this is happening, I get to send a 1-word text message to my husband that just says vomit. Like that's all that it says. And so now she's in a second pair of jams. I have to run upstairs, grab the stuff in the sink, rinse it out, throw it in the washer, clean myself up. Then I sit down with her in her, we have a pack and play that's like the size of our family room. I sit down with her. She's sitting on my lap. I'm getting ready to pull out my phone to text my husband. She sits up, scoots her butt around so she's looking at me and gets sick all over again. So now we're second pair of jams. She is crying. I pick her up. I carry her over to the sink. I strip her down. I clean her up. This poor baby is just walking around in nothing but a diaper. I just started the washer. So after I rinse out this set of pajamas, I just throw it in there because it's been going for approximately 1 minute. I clean her up again, get her in a new pair of jams. And I just sat down on the couch when my husband walks in the door and he was like, I'm so sorry. I wasn't home. And I was like, dude, you have nothing to be sorry. You can't control it. It is what it is. I was like, but she has not stopped this whine crying this whole time. So now after the second time she is sick, I was like, okay, she has anti-nausea meds. I'm going to give them to her. I give them to her and approximately, I don't know, I think Eric was home for maybe 4 minutes. And he says to me, like, should I get a towel just in case she gets sick again? I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea. So he goes to get a towel. While he's getting the towel, she gets sick again. I literally catch it with my hand because that's what moms do. He brings the towel over. She finishes getting sick. And that was the first time that she stopped like whine crying. So I don't know if the anti-nausea meds was in there for long enough to start to kick in or what happened. So this poor baby is just like laying on my chest with a with like a towel over her, with no shirt on and just a pair of pants, and she finally starts to fall asleep. So we just grab like any old t-shirt that we can slip on her, not a onesie, anything like that, and then put her to bed. She, thank God, was not sick, kept her home the next day, obviously, and she has not been sick since. But just like this poor kid is just sick all the time. Just crazy. Like, parenting is a wild ride. But I'm thankful that she is feeling better, because I'm sure it's not super fun. So here, let's talk about the texture. Couple of ways you can create texture in your cards. The first and easiest one is an embossing folder. Whether it's a 2D like I have here or a 3D, embossing folders are by far and away the easiest way you can create texture. Because here I was just trying it and I was like, nah, it's a little loose. So I put my shim in. And this is part of the universal plate set that Spellbinders offers. And so then I was much happier with the amount of pressure, but I felt like my embossing could be deeper. Another way that you can get deeper embossing is by spritzing your cardstock with a little bit of water, not a ton. You just want to mist it. And now normally I would recommend you do this on the back side of your cardstock before you run it through, but I wasn't going to pull it out and try to line it back up just so I could show you the difference. So I did mist mine on the front and it was fine. It was totally fine. So now this is the second time that I have run it through. This time I added water and I could see the detail of the embossing folder much better. So super easy way to add texture, embossing. The next way that you can add texture is by using dies. And I mean dies, not just like your shaped dies. So like obviously for the clear Stampin' Die, I can pop that up. That foam tape will create texture. Because I'm going to have two levels. So when you feel the card, it will have two different textures. It'll have a smooth texture where it's colored on, and then it will have the bumpy texture of the embossing. But I mean dies that create their own textures. And so this one right here, this is the small die of the month, and it's very detailed. It creates kind of like a lacy pattern. Now, the reason I'm doing this again is because I tried running them through together and I found that I didn't get great pressure. So I also changed up in order to get better pressure. I changed up the way I ran it through. So before I ran it through kind of like top to bottom. This little tool here, they've changed it now. It's the all-in-one. I have the original. It's not this color anymore. I think it's white, but they still offer this tool and it's fantastic for getting all the little spots out. But in order to get more even pressure across the length of the die, I turned it horizontal, and that really can be a game changer. You can see here, there's like no even pieces, parts to like force out because I got such even pressure that it worked pretty seamlessly. So for these little butterflies, the smallest one doesn't have a body. So I cut an extra of the middle one, and this is a completely different set. This butterfly set does not... It's part of the same collection, but it does not match the butterflies I stamped. Those I'm going to fussy cut out, which is another way that if you don't have dies, and I get it that they can be somewhat expensive, or maybe not every stamp set has dies, don't forget that you can fussy cut them. And especially like something like butterflies, it's really simple to do so. And so I have a bunch of tips that I have given throughout the years on fussy cutting, but basically you want to hold the scissors in your dominant hand and then move the paper with your non-dominant hand. So here, these are those little dies I was talking about. And I'm just trying to get my card set up about how I'm going to do it. I did end up stamping them on their own. I wasn't going to cut them out of the piece I already did. I just used a white piece of cardstock that I had left over, I think from the butterflies, honestly. And then I stamped the sentiment. I don't want to call it a tag. That's not what it is. Outline, the banner. It's like a banner. Yeah. So like the little sentiment banner there along with the other flowers, I colored them exactly the same, and then I die cut them out. I also die cut out the large one that we did before. So anyway, you can create textures with images that you have fussy cut by popping them up, by it only partially adhering them, like enough that they're secure, but not so much that they're flat to your card. Here, what I'm doing is I got a little bit of ink where I didn't want it, and rather than restamp the banner, I just colored in the outside edge. So that one just has a little bit of a bolder black outline, and I was totally fine with it. So here, when I'm adhering them, I'm going to put the little bodies on the butterflies, which again, now here we have another layer that's sitting on top of our stamped image. So when you feel it, you know, you have those two layers, those two different kind of textures. So just building these butterflies. So how many ways have we gone over? Embossing folders, die cuts that are more detailed and create a different texture, like this one, like this lacy one that we have going on here. And this is actually, the small die of the month is super excellent. There's a bunch of different patterns in there, and so you can use it to create all different kinds of patterns, just a strip of pattern. I obviously did a whole separate piece, but you would not need to do that. You could just add this as like a accent or a detail to cards just by using one or two of those straight dies. That would be really, really very beautiful. So anyway, I'm adding this, gluing this down flat. And then I'll put my butterflies on top of it. I like butterflies. I'm not going to pretend like I don't. I own a lot of butterfly sets. This is a really great one. I think she did a fantastic job. And I also think, if you don't know who BB Cameron is, she really is a very, very talented card maker. And if you have not watched any of her videos or reels or seen any of her projects, I would encourage you to do it. So another way that we're going to create that texture, again, we're going to use the foam tape, but we're only going to adhere the middle of the butterfly. This will allow the wings to like stick up, which not only creates dimension, it also, you know, gives your card a 3D texture so that you have elements that are sticking up off of your card. For this one over here, again, I told you before, I'm going to use the foam tape to pop up this piece. And then around my bottom banner, I am going to use those extra floral pieces. And this is just going to kind of help bring the design down a little bit. So it's not just like flowers banner. It's just going to make it a little bit more cohesive. Not that there's anything wrong with flowers banner. This is just a different, you know, different take on it. So the large piece is popped up on foam. The banner is popped up on foam. The extra pieces I'm gluing down, I'm just gluing down flat. There was no need to put any foam behind them because they are sitting on top of pieces that are already lifted. So the we did 4. So the 3 little butterflies, I am going to use on this card. One of them is going to accent the sentiment, and then the other 2, I'm just going to find cute little places, and I only adhered down one wing on each one of these butterflies. So again, we have those parts that are lifted and create, you know, that little bit more 3-dimensional texture. For the happy birthday one, I did go in with just a couple of enamel dots to kind of fill in that space in between and connect everything. The cheapest way to add texture is coming up, because I am a cheap chicken and I know that we all can't afford, everything that we want to do, and we have to save our pennies and a lot for them. So I am going to add some shimmer with a clear pen to both the butterflies and the flowers in the other side. This right here is the cheapest way to add texture, and it is stickles. These things are just like a couple of bucks, and it creates not just this beautiful shine. My favorite is Stardust stickles because it takes on the color of whatever's behind it. But when you feel it, you can feel the glitter, that texture of the glitter. And so if there are no other ways in which you can find to add texture, that is one way that you can do it for sure with only just a couple of bucks. So I hope that you learned maybe some ideas of adding texture to your cards that you would want to try. I hope you check out that warehouse sale because it's amazing. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.